He did not think much of the invitation at first. To Daniel Carter, it sounded almost normal. A message delivered through official exchange channels, polite and carefully worded, inviting him to visit the private residence of High Matron Shakel. She was the mother of Tira, his assigned alien cultural partner, and over the past year, his closest non-human friend. Humans were still new to the galactic cooperative. Everything felt strange, ceremonial, and heavy with meaning. Daniel had learned that aliens rarely did anything casually. Still, an invitation to a family home sounded less dangerous than council chambers or military halls. Tira did not think so. When Daniel showed her the message, her skin shifted color in a way he had learned meant deep discomfort. Her normally steady eyes lingered on the screen for several seconds too long. "You don't have to go," she said at first. Daniel smiled, trying to lighten the mood. "It's dinner, not an execution." That was when she leaned closer and whispered, her voice tight and low, "You're in trouble." The words stayed with him long after they left her lips. Now, as Daniel stood at the base of the towering structure that was Shakel's home, those words echoed louder than ever. The residence was nothing like the communal towers most of Tira's people lived in. This place was ancient. Stone-like material layered over itself in thick, sloped walls. The building seemed grown rather than constructed, shaped by generations instead of machines. It looked less like a home and more like something that could survive a siege. Daniel adjusted his jacket, simple. Neutral colors, no symbols. He had learned early on that humans were often judged by presentation. Too confident meant arrogance. Too humble meant weakness. He walked a careful line, as humanity always seemed to do. Tira walked beside him in silence. Her posture was stiff, controlled, as if she were stepping into something unavoidable. "You could still refuse," she said quietly. "And insult your mother?" Daniel asked. She didn't answer right away. "Refusal would be noted," she said finally. "But acceptance will also be noted." "That's comforting," Daniel said, though his voice came out thinner than he liked. At the entrance, two guards stood perfectly still. They were taller than Tira, their armor dark and seamless, their eyes focused straight ahead. Daniel felt them register him, scan him, judge him in a way he could not see. One of them stepped aside without a word. They entered. The interior was warm but not welcoming. The light was low and amber, reflecting off curved walls covered in etched symbols. Daniel recognized some of them, records of lineage, victories, and decisions that had shaped entire regions of space. This was not decoration. This was history carved into stone. Several figures waited inside. Older aliens, their features marked by age and authority. Conversations paused the moment Daniel crossed the threshold. Every gaze turned toward him. The silence felt heavy, then a voice cut through it, calm and commanding. "So this is the human." Shakel stepped forward. She was smaller than Daniel expected, but her presence filled the room. Her movements were slow, deliberate, each step measured. Her eyes were sharp, reflecting light like polished metal. Daniel inclined his head, just enough to show respect without submission. "High Matron Shakel, thank you for the invitation." She studied him openly, no pretense of politeness, no effort to hide her judgment. "You speak well," she said, "for a species so recently arrived." Tira shifted beside him. Daniel noticed it but did not react. "You are young," Shakel continued, "and yet they sent you." Daniel chose his words carefully. "Humanity believes understanding begins with listening. I am here to listen." A few of the elders made low sounds, amusement perhaps, or skepticism. "Come," Shakel said, turning away. "We will eat." The dining space was wide and open, a single long table carved from a single slab of dark material. Seats were arranged on both sides, with one at the far end raised slightly above the rest. Shakel took that seat. Daniel was guided to a place halfway down the table, not near the matron, not near the exit, exactly where someone would be easy to observe. Food was served by silent attendants. Daniel recognized none of it, but the exchange program had prepared him for this. He selected only what had been approved for human consumption. No one spoke at first. The silence stretched, broken only by the quiet movements of eating. Daniel felt every second pass. He resisted the urge to fill the quiet. Humans often did that. Aliens noticed. Finally, Shakel spoke. "Your species nearly destroyed itself," she said calmly, as if discussing weather patterns. Daniel looked up. "Yes." Some of the elders shifted. A few watched closely, waiting for excuses. "You fought wars that scarred your planet," Shakel continued. You poisoned your own environment. You built weapons capable of ending all life on your world. Yes, Daniel said again. Why? She asked. Daniel set his utensil down slowly. Fear, he said. Competition, lack of understanding. We were not united. And yet you survived, Shackle said. Daniel nodded. Barely, but barely was enough. A low murmur passed through the table. Shackle's eyes narrowed slightly. Other species faced similar trials and failed. They no longer exist. I know, Daniel said. Tira's gaze flicked to him, sharp and warning, but he continued. We studied those histories before we ever left our system, Daniel said. We wanted to understand what mistakes not to repeat. And did you succeed? An elder asked, his voice edged with challenge. Daniel considered the question. We are still learning, he said honestly, but we learned one thing very well. And what is that? Shackle asked. That survival is not about being perfect, Daniel said. It's about adapting faster than failure can catch you. Silence fell again, heavier than before. Shackle leaned back slightly, her gaze never leaving him. You speak as if survival is a skill, she said. Daniel met her eyes. For humans, it always has been. One of the elders let out a low, disapproving sound. Confidence from a fragile species. Daniel turned toward him slowly and respectfully. Fragile things break easily, he said. Humans bend, sometimes too far, but we rarely break the same way twice. Tira inhaled sharply. Shackle raised one hand, silencing the room. Her expression was unreadable. You do not deny your weaknesses, she said. No, Daniel replied. We study them. Shackle considered him for a long moment. Then she gestured for the attendants to clear the table. Walk with me, she said. Daniel rose. His legs felt steady, though his pulse was loud in his ears. They moved through a side corridor, away from the elders, away from witnesses. The walls here were plain, unmarked. This invitation was not a courtesy, Shackle said as they walked. I suspected as much, Daniel replied. Good, she said. Ignorance would have been disappointing. They stopped before a wide opening that overlooked the city below. Lights stretched endlessly, a living network of movement and power. Your species has drawn attention, Shackle said. Not all of it favorable. Daniel clasped his hands behind his back. We expected that. Most species try to appear harmless, she said. You do not. Daniel looked out at the city. Harmless things get erased, he said. We decided long ago that honesty was safer. Shackle turned to face him fully now. Tell me, human, she said. Do you believe your species deserves a place among us? Daniel did not answer right away. He thought of Earth, of crowded cities and quiet fields, of mistakes written into history books and lessons learned the hard way. Yes, he said finally, not because we are better, but because we are still trying. Shackle studied him in silence. Far behind them, Tira waited, her posture tense, her eyes fixed on the two figures framed against the city lights. She did not know what her mother would decide. Neither did Daniel. But he knew one thing now with absolute certainty. This was never just dinner. And whatever judgment awaited humanity, it had already begun. The night did not end when Daniel left the matron's home. That was the first thing he understood as he was escorted back through the heavy doors and into the quiet air outside. The guards did not speak. Neither did Tira. They walked side by side for several minutes before the city sounds slowly returned around them. Only then did Tira stop. You should not have said some of those things, she said softly. Daniel turned to her. Which ones? She looked at him for a long moment, then let out a slow breath. Most of them. He gave a small smile. That bad? That dangerous, she replied. My mother does not invite people to speak freely. She invites them to reveal themselves. Then I guess I did exactly that, Daniel said. Tira's skin shifted again, a sign of mixed emotions he had learned meant fear layered with something else. Respect, maybe, or worry. You don't understand what today meant, she said. Then help me understand, Daniel replied. She hesitated, then began walking again. He followed. My people do not judge individuals the way humans do, Tira said. We judge patterns, behavior under pressure, reactions when power is uneven. So I was pressure tested, Daniel said. Yes, she replied. And so was humanity. They reached a transport platform. The vehicle arrived silently, doors opening as if it had been waiting. Inside, the lights were dim. The city slid past the windows as they moved. My mother sits on more than family authority, Tira continued. She advises councils that decide which species are allowed time. Daniel's jaw tightened. Allowed time, he repeated. Some civilizations burn too fast, she said. Too violent, too unstable. They damage others when they fall. My people believe it is kinder to end them early. Daniel did not answer right away. That's what this was about, he said finally. Whether we're a problem that needs solving. Tira nodded once. Yes. The transport slowed as they approached the human embassy district. Clean lines, bright lights. Human architecture stood out among the curves and organic shapes of the alien city. When I whispered that you were in trouble, Tira said quietly, I meant that humanity was standing on the edge of a decision. Daniel exhaled. No pressure. She almost smiled. Almost. The next morning, Daniel was summoned again, not by Shackle, by his own people. The meeting room inside the human embassy was familiar, sterile in a comforting way. Flags, screens, coffee that tasted like home. Ambassador Reyes stood at the front, arms crossed, expression sharp. You made quite an impression, she said. Daniel took his seat. Good or bad? That depends on who you ask, she replied. The Cooperative Council flagged last night's gathering as a significant cultural interaction. That usually means someone is nervous. Daniel nodded. They should be. Several advisors exchanged looks. You knew this was a test, Reyes said. I suspected, Daniel replied. Tira confirmed it afterward. Reyes leaned forward. Daniel, there are factions in the cooperative that believe humans are a delayed disaster. Clever. Adaptive, hard to predict. And others? Daniel asked. Others think you're bluffing, she said. That beneath the confidence, humans will collapse under real pressure. Daniel smiled faintly. We do have a habit of surprising people. Reyes did not smile back. Shackle requested data access. The room went still. What kind of data? Daniel asked. Historical, Reyes said. Wars, recoveries, near-extinction events, how fast humanity rebuilt, how we changed strategy after failure. Daniel understood immediately. She wants proof, he said, not words. Yes, Reyes replied, and once she has it, it won't stay private. Daniel leaned back, staring at the ceiling for a moment. If we refuse, he said. That will also be noted, Reyes replied. Daniel closed his eyes briefly. Give it to her, he said. A murmur rippled through the room. All of it? One advisor asked. The good, the bad, and the ugly, Daniel said. We already told them we don't hide our scars. Reyes studied him carefully. You're very calm for someone whose species might be judged. Daniel opened his eyes. We've been judged before, he said. By nature, by ourselves, we're still here. The data transfer began within hours. Human history unfolded in cold, organized files, conflicts, plagues, climate collapse, recovery models, cultural shifts. Technological leaps born from desperation. Shackle did not comment publicly. That silence was worse than anger. Days passed. Daniel continued his duties, meetings, cultural briefings, shared projects. Everywhere he went, he felt it, the subtle shift in how aliens watched him. Listened to him, measured him. Tira visited often, though she said little. When she did speak, it was careful. My mother has not decided, she said one evening. Does she ever hurry? Daniel asked. No, Tira replied. Time is a weapon she uses well. That night, Daniel received another invitation, not to the matron's home, to a council observation chamber. This time, Tira was not allowed to accompany him. The chamber was circular, with tiered seating rising into shadows. Representatives of several species sat quietly, their attention fixed on the center platform. Daniel stood alone there. Shackle's voice echoed from above. Human Daniel Carter, you have been observed. Daniel resisted the urge to look around. I assumed as much. Some of the observers shifted. You present your species as adaptable, Shackle continued, as resilient, as honest about its flaws. Yes, Daniel said, because those flaws shaped us. You claim fear made you stronger, another voice said. Fear destroys most species. Daniel looked up now. Fear destroys those who refuse to face it, he said. We faced it every day. Shackle appeared in the light, standing above him. Your history shows repeated self-inflicted disasters, she said. Why should we believe the next one will not end you? Daniel thought of Earth again, of children who would never know this room. Because we plan for failure, he said, not success. A ripple of confusion passed through the chamber. Explain, Shackle said. We don't assume things will go right, Daniel said. We assume they will go wrong, so we build systems that survive mistakes, redundancy, backup plans, arguments, disagreement. You celebrate conflict, an observer said. We manage it, Daniel replied. There's a difference. Shackle watched him closely. Your people were given access to technology far beyond your early development, she said. Some feared that would accelerate your collapse. Daniel nodded. It might have, he said, if we hadn't already lived through collapse without it. Silence followed. Then Shackle spoke words that made the chamber tense. There are those among us who believe humanity should be removed before it becomes uncontrollable. Daniel's heart pounded, but his voice stayed steady. I believe them, he said. And yet you stand here calmly, she said. Daniel met her gaze. Because whether you choose to trust us or destroy us, he said, we will respond the same way we always have. How is that? Shackle asked. We adapt, Daniel said. If allowed to live, we learn. If attacked, we endure. Either way, we change. The chamber remained silent for a long time. Finally, Shackle raised one hand. This assessment is not complete, she said. But understand this, human. Daniel waited. Your species is no longer unseen. As Daniel was escorted out, he felt the weight of that truth settle on him. Humanity had stepped fully into the light, and somewhere behind him, in halls older than memory, decisions were being shaped that would define whether humans would be neighbors. Or a warning whispered to future civilizations. The first sign that something had changed came quietly. Daniel noticed it during a routine walk through the shared research district. Aliens who once passed him without interest now slowed their steps. Some watched openly. Others pretended not to, which was worse. Conversations paused when he entered a room, then resumed with careful tones. Humanity was no longer just new. Humanity was being watched. Back at the embassy, the mood had shifted as well. Security protocols tightened. Data access logs were reviewed more often. Messages from the cooperative took longer to arrive, and when they did, they were carefully worded and empty of meaning. Ambassador Reyes called Daniel into her office on the 5th day after the council chamber appearance. They're arguing, she said without preamble. About, Daniel asked, though he already knew. About you, she replied. About us. Daniel sat down slowly. That's not surprising. Reyes folded her hands on the desk. What is surprising is how divided they are. Some see us as a risk that needs to be removed now. Others think we're a tool that could be useful later. And Shackle? Daniel asked. Reyes' expression tightened. She hasn't taken a side, not openly. Daniel nodded. That means she's still testing. Yes, Reyes said. And this next one worries me. She activated the wall display. A projection appeared, an uninhabited system on the edge of cooperative space. Harsh radiation, unstable stellar activity, no permanent settlements. What am I looking at? Daniel asked. A failed colony, Reyes said. One of theirs, decades ago, they abandoned it after losing too many people. Daniel studied the data. You want us to go there? They want you to go there, Reyes corrected. Specifically, a joint team, humans and one of the older species, a recovery and stabilization mission. Daniel looked back at her. That place killed them. Yes, Reyes said. Slowly, system failures, environmental stress, psychological breakdown. Daniel leaned back. And now they want to see how we handle it. They want to see if you break, Reyes said quietly. Daniel was silent for a moment. Send the request through, he said. Reyes searched his face. You're sure? No, Daniel replied, but we don't get many chances to show who we really are. The mission launched 3 days later. The ship was cooperative design, large and modular. The crew was mixed. Humans made up less than a third of the team. The rest were scientists, engineers, and observers from older species. Daniel was not the commander. That, too, was intentional. From the start, tension filled the ship. The non-human crew treated the mission like a demonstration. Procedures were followed exactly. No deviations, no improvisation. The humans noticed the cracks immediately. The colony ruins were worse than the data suggested. Corroded structures. Power systems degraded beyond normal failure rates. Radiation storms interfered with sensors unpredictably. On the 2nd day planetside, a storm hit without warning. Energy readings spiked. Shields strained. One of the alien engineers froze, staring at the failing systems as alarms sounded. Backup grid isn't responding, the engineer said, voice tight. Then bypass it, a human technician shouted. That violates protocol, the alien replied. Protocol won't matter if we're dead, the human snapped back. Daniel stepped between them. Do it, he said calmly. Log the violation later. The alien hesitated, then obeyed. The shield stabilized. No one spoke for several seconds. Later in the temporary command shelter, the tension finally broke. You act without certainty, one of the observers said, clearly disturbed. Daniel looked at him. We act with probability, he replied. Certainty is a luxury we never had. The mission continued under constant strain. Systems failed. Supplies ran low faster than expected. One of the alien crew suffered a psychological collapse after prolonged exposure to the unstable environment. Humans adapted. They rotated shifts more frequently. Shared burdens without being asked. Improvised tools from scrap. When the alien engineer finally admitted he didn't know how to fix a critical stabilizer, a human mechanic sat beside him and said, "Okay, let's figure it out together." No blame, no hierarchy, just problem solving. The observers watched closely. On the 7th day, the real test came. The colony's old reactor, long thought inactive, began to destabilize. If it breached, it would irradiate the entire zone. Evacuation would be possible, but the data core they were sent to retrieve would be lost. The alien commander hesitated. "We have achieved sufficient observation," he said. "We should leave." Daniel looked at the reactor readouts. "We can stabilize it," he said. "You don't know that," the commander replied. Daniel nodded. "No, but we know we can try." "You risk lives," the commander said. "We risk them either way," Daniel replied. "This way it's for something." The commander looked to the observers. No guidance came. Finally, he stepped aside. "Proceed," he said. The next hours were chaos. Humans and aliens worked side by side inside radiation-shielded suits. Instructions were shouted. Adjustments were made on the fly. When a control rod jammed, a human engineer manually forced it free, knowing the exposure risk. When the reactor finally stabilized, no one cheered. They just sat where they were, breathing hard. The data core was recovered. No one died. Back on the ship, the mood was different. Quiet, thoughtful, one of the older species scientists approached Daniel while he was reviewing reports. "Your people accepted loss as a possibility," the scientist said. Daniel looked up. "We always do." "But you did not accept failure," the scientist continued. Daniel considered that. "Failure is only final if you stop," he said. When the ship returned to cooperative space, the reception was immediate. Debriefings followed debriefings. Data was analyzed, footage reviewed, decisions scrutinized. Shackle watched it all. She saw humans argue loudly, then agree. She saw them break protocol, then document why. She saw fear, but also movement through it. During the final review, she spoke for the first time since the mission ended. "The humans did not outperform you," she said to the observers. "They outlasted uncertainty." One of the council members shifted. "That may make them dangerous." Shackle's eyes narrowed slightly. "Or necessary." Later, Tira met Daniel in a quiet corridor. "You changed something," she said. Daniel smiled tiredly. "Good or bad?" She studied him. "My people fear species that cannot be controlled," she said. "Humans do not seek control, you seek survival." "And cooperation," Daniel added. She nodded. "That is what frightens them most." Daniel leaned against the wall, exhaustion finally catching up to him. "What happens now?" Tira was silent for a moment. "My mother is calling a private session," she said. "Not with the full council." Daniel straightened. "That sounds important." "It is," she replied. "It means the decision is no longer theoretical." As Tira walked away, Daniel felt the weight of the past weeks settle fully on him. Humanity had been tested not by strength or weapons or technology, but by endurance, by the ability to stand inside uncertainty and keep moving anyway. And somewhere beyond the walls of the cooperative's grand halls, a truth was becoming clear. If humans were allowed to stay, they would not remain small. They would adapt. And once adapted, they would change the shape of the galaxy around them. The room where the final decision was made was smaller than Daniel expected. There were no crowds, no raised platforms, just a circular chamber with smooth walls and a single table in the center. Soft light filled the space, calm and neutral. This was not a place for performance. It was a place for truth. Shackle stood at one side of the table. Tira was there as well, her posture formal but tense. 3 other elders sat quietly, their attention fixed on Daniel as he entered. He felt no fear now, only focus. "You have been tested," Shackle said, her voice steady, "not as an individual but as a reflection of your species." Daniel inclined his head. "I understand." "You were placed under observation," she continued. "Social pressure, moral judgment, environmental collapse, risk of loss." She paused. "You were expected to fail in one of them." Daniel did not respond. "But you did not," Shackle said. "Instead, you revealed something we did not anticipate." One of the elders spoke. "Humans do not seek dominance when threatened." "No," Shackle agreed. "They seek continuation." She turned her gaze fully on Daniel. Your people do not pretend to be peaceful. You do not claim perfection. You do not hide your history. Daniel met her eyes. We learned that lies fail under pressure. Shackle nodded slowly. Yes, and pressure is the only constant in this galaxy. The room was silent. For many cycles, Shackle said, my people believed unstable species should be removed before they spread instability. It was logical, efficient. Her tone hardened slightly. But logic without perspective becomes blindness. One of the elders shifted. You would risk allowing another potential disaster. Shackle did not look at him. No, I would risk allowing a stabilizer. Daniel felt his breath catch, but he remained still. Humans do not burn out quickly, Shackle said. They scar, they rebuild, they remember. She stepped closer to the table. A species that plans for failure is not reckless. It is cautious in a way we do not fully understand. Tira's eyes flicked to Daniel, something like relief passing through her. The Council has debated eradication, Shackle said openly. Containment, restriction, surveillance. Daniel spoke carefully. We expected all of that. And yet, Shackle said, there is another option. She placed one hand on the table. Partnership. The word hung in the air. Not protection, she clarified. Not elevation. Responsibility. One of the elders frowned. You would bind us to them. I would bind us with them, Shackle replied. They see collapse coming before it arrives. They do not look away. She turned back to Daniel. Humanity will be granted full standing within the cooperative. No hidden evaluations, no silent countdown. Daniel exhaled slowly. In return, Shackle continued, your species will share its methods, crisis planning, redundancy models, social recovery systems. Daniel nodded. Gladly. Shackle studied him one last time. Understand this, human, you were never invited because you were weak. Daniel waited. You were invited because you were dangerous, she said. Not to us, to stagnation. The elders said nothing. The decision was made. Later, as Daniel and Tira walked through the open corridors of the cooperative complex, the atmosphere felt different, lighter. Voices sounded less guarded. Eyes still watched, but no longer searched for reasons to end something. You were in trouble, Tira said quietly. Daniel smiled. I know, she looked at him. Do you know what my mother said after the session ended? Daniel shook his head. She said if we had erased them, we would have erased our future warning system. Daniel stopped walking for a moment. That's comforting. In a strange way, Tira's lips curved in a small smile. Humans are strange. Yeah, Daniel agreed, but we survive. As they moved on, messages were already spreading across cooperative space. Humanity was no longer a question. Humanity was an answer, not the strongest. Not the oldest, but the species that looked into disaster, named it honestly, and kept going anyway. And for the first time in a very long time, the galaxy felt prepared.